down. We are going to, do this and then give you a break to have further conversations, but I'd request everybody to sit down. Suvir, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Suvir, you're a Michelin star. You've been the founder, chef creator of Devi, of Amma. You're the culinary director of Anon Foods, which really is the company behind Punjabi by Nature. You've written books, you run a column, you're a beautiful singer. All of that, again, begins, and, this has been about personal journeys, because I always feel that we always see people when they're successful and in the spotlight, and it's important to know what it takes to get there, and that it's not always rosy to begin with. So, again, with you, Suvir, I'd love to start at the very beginning, at the inception. You've spoken about how, as a child, when you were 4 or 5 years old, when you were in Nagpur, you literally had nightmares about being killed, for beginning to feel that you were different. Help us understand that psyche, and how as a child could you even know that you were different, and why did you feel that society was going to come crashing down on you?
So I have my mother sitting here in the first row, and this brave woman who gave birth to this crazy kid. And little did she know that I was crying as a young boy. But in Nagpur, we lived in Ambajari layout. This neighborhood, near there was a Shamshan Ghat or Bhumi, whatever they call it. And I just remember seeing these processions and bodies that were still. And I had no vocabulary to give voice to any of my mental issues. But I remember that frightening me. And I would cry and shiver almost every night. That's when the nightmares of identity began. That will I be that dead body when people realize I'm thinking differently. I didn't know the word gay. I knew I was different. My brother had different expressions of his masculinity, if you will, than me. And that made me realize I'm different. And it took all the way till the year when I was 14. And I saw India Today magazine with an ad of Raymond's, one of those suiting companies, with a postage stamp size photograph of Rohit Bal. And I said, that man is me. And he didn't look like me, but I knew he's gay. And I called 9 or 10 Bals in the phone book. 199, I believe, was the number you called. And the 9th home I called, their nanny picked up, who had a coarse voice. Hello. And I said, is Rohit Bal at home? And she said, he'll come back in the evening. And that evening was the time, my first time I spoke to Gudda was around 9:30 in the evening. And he said, let me have my dinner, let me get ready, and I'll come see you post midnight. So somewhere around 1 in the morning, he arrived at our home. He was on the street in his car. He got out of it. I was on the Barsati rooftop. And Gudda had said that you come, I'll see you. If you look normal, I'll come in. So he jumped the gate and came in.
What did he mean by that?
Jeffrey Dahmer was killing people in the city my Masi lives in. She's here to Aruna. In San Francisco, a serial killer called Jeffrey Dahmer was murdering gay men at the very same time. And Gudda was worried I was going to be Indian Jeffrey Dahmer. And so I sang for him on the phone. That convinced him that he is not a Jeffrey Dahmer. I don't know why I could have been Jeffrey Dahmer despite singing. But we met my sister, who was 3 years older. She, Gudda, and I did a fashion show that night with all of mom's saris, whatever jewelry she had in a little drawer that wasn't in the safe. And we were playing till 4:35 in the morning when my grandmother would wake up. And then it became a ritual. And from that young age, Rohit Khosla had come out, but he was also diagnosed with HIV/AIDS. We lost him within a year. And I used to look like Rohit Khosla to all of them. And so all these designers who were battling their own identity, hiding in the closet, afraid of HIV, they protected me and made me come of age without any fear. They said, you're the most precious thing, be an artist, do all you want. And my teachers, I have a Mrs. Shahi, the shock of white hair sitting there on the 3rd row. These teachers became my buddies, became my friends, became my agency. I would sit in the teacher's room reading poetry to them that I would write and come to school with. I would get 0 in my exams, but I was their hero in the teacher's room. They would indulge me to do all the crazy things I did. Somewhere in their heads, they were not afraid that I would fail in life. So they were tough with me. They would tell me to do my homework, which I never did. But I sang, I did macrame, crochet, needlepoint, painting, music, and chatting with teachers. Between my mother and the crazy teachers, I managed to get out of school, and the rest is history.
Yeah. But Suvir, that's a beautiful story because it's amazing that, there were so many women figures in your life, starting with your mother and your teachers, who just accepted you as you were, So
And these women were not really tutored to be raising a gay kid or children who were naughty or different. Our teachers were, at modern school Vasant Vihar, our principal was another crazy kook, Mr. Ved Vyas. So he was my father's drama teacher and Hindi teacher. Then he became principal of modern school Vasant Vihar. He took these teachers who didn't have history in education, but they had, I'm told, good hearts, good brains, good families, and they were hungry to be what they wanted to do, teach. And so this cadre of teachers were my teachers. They were taking a risk in their lives. The principal decided to think differently. And our batches of modern school, the early batches, am I right, Mrs. Shahi? We had a very different education. We got education that would today be the most avant-garde education. And that gave access, agency, and celebration to different minds doing different things that we put into boxes, label, and throw into the trash can today. So I was lucky in that way.
It's amazing, Suvir, because so many others would have a completely different story but in your adolescence, both from Rohit, your mother, your teachers, that idea of education that they had belief in you when you didn't have belief in yourself, that's amazing,
And I think they also let me dream the dreams they weren't able to. So I also think somewhere, my mother, my teachers, Malis, I was also a gardener. Mrs. Mahajan was my geography teacher, but part-time she was a gardener. She made me her gardening assistant. Even the Mali dreamt his dreams through me. So I think they realized their dreams through us kids.
So, I just want to salute your grandmother because I read in one of your columns, and, Aishwarya has been researching you deeply, and it was your nani that made you come out and again created the framework for you to really come into your own. So do share that story with the audience as well.
So my brother-in-law is coming to town in a few days, called me when I was 20-year-old living with a man called Chuck. And he said, Nani is not convinced that you and Chuck are roommates. And I said, what do you mean Nani is not convinced that my roommate is Chuck? She thinks you remind her of a character from Bold and Beautiful, and who's different. I said, different? Because I was closeted to my brother-in-law. She said, well, Nani thinks you're gay. I said, Kya? Are you gay? And I said, well, Ajit, I am. He said, well, your sister will be totally crushed. So it took my sister wasn't, she just didn't expect it. And I said, Seema, what did you think I was? I was 14, 15, 16. All the girl models that she was coordinating with, who were models for her little boutique she ran, would strip in front of me with no cares. They knew that this boy is harmless. So I said, Seema. She said, oh, now I get it. So, our lives were mad. Ajit had this conversation. He said, Nani is worried that you'll become a substance abuser. That Nani thinks you must come out to yourself, not lie, and then carry on with life. And that was the conversation. We came to San Francisco, to your home, where my aunt lived in the Marina district. And Nani cooked for my partner Chuck and I, and she gave us comfort. And then I came out to my mom on the phone. And my mother, of course, was perfectly fine. But then the question began, when did you come out? How long did you know? And every time we would talk, something about this was spoken about. And recently, in the last couple of years, or 3-4 years, she said to me, and I don't know if she remembers it, but it was a very poignant statement, that I may have known you were different, but no mother wants to assume her child is different or wants the child to be different. I said, why? She said, you get ridiculed, you get bullied, you get called names, and life isn't easy. So every parent would wish their child to fit into whatever societal norm every child should fit, for their own safety, their own better successes in living a life with less challenges. So the questions have continued always, but I've been a lucky man that my parents or my friends and the society around me mostly has been very good. I had the burden that Manoj Pachpai didn't have, of neither being too rich or too poor. So my story doesn't have sexy sex appeal. I'm too ordinary. The people who are rich have stories that they can buy. The poor can sell stories. Oh, I had to suffer to get there. My life was almost too ordinary to be written about, but it had its own challenges, but also lovely people to bless it.
Yeah. Manoj's life, I must say, is not about being poor, but just that conviction and heroism is, I
We
think,
all
what
have
we're
to
at.
come with conviction and heroism because I've also taken autos and I've also been homeless in New York and not told anybody about it. So I think we all have it. But I always say the burden of being middle class is that you're not sexy. You have everything is too boring and basic about you. But I had the extra burden of being gay. So somewhere there, the challenges were very, very deep and I think vexing. But the middle class mindset of the yesteryears, where education and thinking made you people who had bigger hearts and more elastic capacities to grow, made me survive. Today's middle class is either too woke or too rabidly fanatic, and in those we are tearing each other apart. But the time I grew up in the schooling I got, we had people who were larger than themselves, who looked at Akhand Bharat as an India that included everybody. And in that India, there was room also for me.
So, Suvir, I want to make you speak about food. And like I said, you've really spoken of food in every avatar, which is both as healing, as a bridge, as an ambassadorship. But I just want one thing about your life, which was very intriguing, and it's again about how society reacts, is that you were in modern school Vasant Vihar, which was so enabling, as you said. And then when you went to JJ School of Arts, you said that those were the darkest years. Disabling and dark, why was that? Like, was there not a community of artists that were more open-hearted over there?
I was in the Adda of the RSS. If I could describe JJ School of Art in 1991, it represented the cadres of the RSS, the hotbed of Maratha pride, and a man who looked like what you were showing 30 years ago. I was either Kashmiri or Punjabi or Chikna to them. And I was none of those. My dadi was from a town near Lucknow. We called ourselves UP Walas. It was beyond their imagination that a bhaiya could look like me. So my answers didn't suit their compartmentalized thinking. And then I was a Hindu who wasn't wearing a tilak. They only took 1 or 2 students outside of Maharashtra in those days. I was one of them. And they loved ribbing on us. And that I didn't go to a temple, that I was singing Urdu ghazals, learning to write in Urdu, were all very inconvenient for them. And also they did education by rote. And when I challenged Mrs. Shahi and all other teachers in my modern school by being the first student in CBSE history to take 8 subjects in 11th and 12th, I took physics, chemistry, math, biology, English, and in addition, music, art, and senior Hindi. So this was a crazy character coming to JJ, where they only read books and read more books, and creativity was pushed into the readings of the Puranas.
So, Suvir, just to come back to food, come to food for a moment, a lot of food now is very fashionable, you zeroed in on home food, So describe to us why home food, and not just that you were in New York and you were dying for food, your home cooking, but what did you understand about it? What was that power of home food that you could make it such a celebrated thing in another society?
So I think I was lucky that I was in another society being Indian. We Indians either turn rabid or we go too soft. So when I arrived in New York in 1991, the Indian food looked like what Indian food is in India today. Butter chicken, dal makhani, biryani, kebab, and just that. And if you were very adventurous, you got dosa and idli. And you would call sambar, sambar. So this was the length and breadth of our Indian imagination. In India today, there in the 1990s, I was craving the ghar ka khana of my home. Our vegetarian Maharaj Panditji cooked beautiful foods from my dadi's family's recipes that she had taught him. And every day at our table, a simple arhar ki dal could be made into poetry that would cleanse your mind, body, and soul and excite people. Just today, a friend from Jammu was eating a chane ki dal and chana urad ki dal and saying, oh my God, it's so good. That simple dal would be made something craveable. So I miss this food. When I cooked it for my fellow students, and then from that for the person who ran the admissions department at School of Visual Arts in New York, he brought a doctor friend. Next thing, famous Bollywood and Hollywood stars were eating at my table, making relationship arrangements for me to pay me money to be their lover. Life happened. That this Indian food of Indian homes that was light, delicious, healthy, nutritive, fashionably sexy all at once. that they never found in a restaurant in India or abroad was mind-boggling to them. That food became the food at my restaurant, Devi in New York City, Amma before then. And we were the first degustation offering in the planet of Indian food served like French style with many courses, small bites. People hadn't imagined an Indian restaurant could dare to do it. We did, and we charged $75 for a meal at that point for 5 courses in 2001, and $125 for 11 courses, and then a wine pairing. People paid it. We got all the accolades we needed. When the Michelin Guide came to America for the first time in 2007, we were one of 18 restaurants that got a star, the only non-Northern European restaurant in North America.
So
Ghar ka khana, I did nothing. The kudos went to Indian home cooking that is dead in India today and was dead in America and India even then. So we Indians need to grow up. There'll be many stars coming our way.
So Suvir, if suppose I was not a believer and you had to convert me to this, what would be the dishes that you would, let's say God came visiting to you. What would be the meal you would serve and convert God to your way of being?
So aajkal, there's ponk is coming. In Gujarat, the ponk is jowar, which is grilled on open flame. And then you make a bhel puri with ponk. Oof. Matlab, I could eat it, dying, last thing to eat will be ponk. So seasonal Indian food, you don't have to jog your memory too much. In Italy, they say what grows together must be served together, must be cooked together. They call the best Italian food with the greatest number of Michelin stars is called cucina povera, the food of poverty. Same thing in India. When we eat ghar ka khana, no Baba Ramdev, no Rashtrapatis and Pradhan Mantris and Mukhya Mantris can teach us any trick. We already know them. Our food is sensible, it's pure genius. We don't put copious amounts of ghee, we couldn't afford it. Ghee, when you put in a bottle, coagulates and becomes white and solid. We cooked mostly with vegetable oils, little bit of ghee put for flavor, with seasonal vegetables, with little starch, traditionally fibrous rice, whole grain atta. Eat that food. It's heart healthy, it's mind-bogglingly delicious, the world will salute you, and the stars will follow, and you won't be going to hospitals with coronary heart disease and diabetes, and Baba Ramdev will be in jail. So follow that diet and you'll be freeing yourself.
Okay. In this day and age, I have to put all the caveats that Baba Ramdev should be here to defend himself, etc.
Hello, the Supreme Court told him he can't be defended. So didn't they just say something? He had to put an ad the size of the newspaper to say he had cheated us.
Yeah.
So, and in the US, the Supreme Court, the United States Congress, both chambers of Congress, voted against a man like Baba Ramdev called Dr. Oz. He was the American Baba Ramdev. Cheating people, fooling people, saying put coconut fat into a cappuccino and drink it, it's elixir for good health. It's the most horrid fat you can put into your body. These people get caught years later. There's an $8 billion industry of marketing commodities that doesn't care about our health. All they care about are their stocks rising and human health depreciating. When we get sick, we go to their friend who runs a hospital and they make money. So please think about what you put in your mouths. You are what you eat. We have an amazing Ayurvedic system of eating. Follow it. It's not about trends. It's about mindful choices and a healthy, sane, and very modest lifestyle. That's where the magic is.
So, Suvir, because there's so much focus now on being fit, and that fit also means thin, does the Indian palate, you're a good ambassador for it. Does the Indian plate enable one to be, serve both beauty and health?
Do you think I'm beautiful? I don't think so, but I'm happy.
Yes.
Beauty is very subjective, and also being fit. Again, we follow America rather blindly, even though we think, we are non-aligned. All our imagination has been occupied by the American diet, the American way of being. Fit isn't a calorie count. Fit isn't a body shape. Fit is it's like the autism spectrum of who's normal. Fit is the same thing. There's nothing wrong. We have to celebrate everybody in the spectrum of humanity, fitness, mindfulness, imagination, we are all one. Humanity is to be celebrated. Indulge me here. I recently, last week, got the Fit and Fab Award from Global Spa magazine, and the others were the actor brothers, Ayushmann Khurrana, some other Bollywood stars, and then me, and I was laughing. I said, did you mean to give me fit and flab? And they were so the Greek and the French have curvy bodies with a few extra pounds, extra kilos. They're chunky, they're smiling. They start sipping alcohol at 5 in the afternoon. They sip till 2 in the morning. They're active in every way possible. They don't need Viagra. They have fun. They climb mountains with their feet. Don't take cars. How are they doing it? They think with their brains. They eat what's growing local. And they eat what their great-grandparents were eating. They haven't changed genetically. They're modified grains or flours. Their food is as old as time, and their imagination is at peace with themselves and their environment. They eat at the table over 1.5 or 2 hours. They're not going to the gym to exercise. This is where they exercise their tongues. They jog their memory and minds. And they're a group of people giving therapy to one another. There's a community like this in America called Linda Loma, California, where Americans forget to die as quickly as other Americans die. 9-year increase in their life expectancy. They live the satsang way. They call it satsang. They're all plant-based vegetarian, but they eat every meal as a community, and they don't go to the hospital as often as all other Americans in North America go. So there lies the answer. Fit is as fit as you are in your mind. If you're comfortable, if you're happy, if you're eating good, beautiful, natural, wholesome food, you're fitter than the bodybuilder who dies at 41 with his arteries clogged, eating crap. So think twice about that.
Thank you, Suvir. Suvir, when you're talking about this, and you've had that kind of wholesome ecosystem of love with your siblings and your parents,
but wholesome is not always good.
Wholesome.
We challenge each other, we torture each other, break each other apart. We cry, we melt down. My mother has to become Switzerland. So a lot of drama happens, and very cinematic. Manoj Bajpayee has nothing compared to our drama. You'll be watching our home's movie all day long.
I'm going to put a wall between you dissing Manoj Bajpayee.
No, I love him. He's one of the most incredible actors.
Yes.
So what I'm saying is, in real life, we are all Manoj Bajpayee.
Yes.
And you have to be that. That's the character you have to play, not the Bollywood stars that look like $1 million and give us these fake stories that don't have reality.
Well, you look $1 million, so, I have to ask you that...
But I'm acting right now.
That, you were in this sort of ecosystem of love and good eating, but you had a terrible breakdown, and you lost your memory. You were almost blind for 30 months, if I'm not mistaken. 18 months. And you finally had to come home, and it's actually home and your mother that healed you again. And you said both her presence, the idea of home, and the science of that food fixed you. So talk to us about your breakdown, what triggered it, and how did you heal?
When I got sick, my mother diagnosed it better than any doctor. And she kept saying he needs a sabbatical from the way he lives, from his life and living. Those are the words she repeated.
So are you a bad ambassador for your own way of living?
So what she forgot, what Aishwarya forgot in her research about me, I'm the only chef on the Nutrition Advisory Board of Harvard Medical School,
to that.
Brigham and Women Hospital. So when I teach doctors and physicians how to eat, I always say practice as I preach, not as I do. So I live life on the edge. मैं मौत के मुंह में disco dance करता हूँ. So this is my Shashi Tharoor Hindi. But I love disco dancing in the mouth of death. And I'm a big fan of Dr. Tharoor's. He's responsible for me writing my column and helping my mother believe in me and believing in my next chapters of my life. My mother brought me home. My mother and brother and my sister together decided... I'm a toast in America. I was working too hard, not resting enough, pushing the envelopes of chasing success, whatever it was, having a relationship that was on its last chapters. Everything was in its biggest and worst at the same time. And when she brought me home and cared for me as a child, it also meant forcing me to eat, letting me sing all hours of the day. I'd be a crybaby because I couldn't see well. Now I realize how shameful I was that the people who are blind live beautiful, full lives, working, struggling, giving society back. And here I was a crybaby being nursed by an older woman in her 70s. And she gave me all of that. Life happened, I healed. It was concussions that I'd had, nothing more than that. And as I've healed, I've become fatter and more robust and argumentative and angry and all of those things. But mostly a happy human being.
Right. And I'm really, we owe a big sort of clap to your mother, you know, who's been amazing in your life. And
my aunt and all of the people of the planet. I think what I learned from my mother and mother...
You're in an ecstasy of love right now, Suvir.
Always. Because Kabir said, na, boye ped babool ka aam kahan se hoye. When you sow the seeds of the thistle plant, how can you dream of getting mangoes in harvest? So the world is an echo chamber. If anything I've learned from my mother, do unto others as you want done to you. You want to see good, be good. You want to feel love, give love. You want charity, give charity. And she would always say, give charity. The left hand should not know what the right does in it. So simple, it's very old-fashioned living. She's a very good Hindu, but she never took us to a temple. The only temple she took us to were the broken ones, jinki itihas ke bare, about history. What she taught us was to go into our ghat. देखो घट ही में हरि का निवास है रे तूने बाहर तलाश नेको किए लेकिन खुद ही में प्यारे को भूल गए वो तो करता पुकार हर सांस है रे. That was the essence of a Vedantic, Upanishadic Hinduism that took you inside and you got the answers and 100 more questions that kept you busy for the next 100 years.
You know, I was going to ask you to do that at the end, but I'm going to ask you to do it now. That Kabir has been a big part of your life and that you're a wonderful singer. I don't know how many
Wonderful,
of you know
I
that.
don't know, but I dare to sing, yes.
Okay, so please sing us a Kabir Doha.
माटी कहे कुम्हार से तू क्या रोंधे मोहे एक दिन ऐसा आएगा मैं रोंधूंगी तो है आए हैं सो जाएंगे राजा रंक फकीर एक सिंहासन चढ़ी चले दूजे बंधे जंजीर माटी कहे कुम्हार से.
Wow, it's beautiful. So, Suvir, you know, you've spoken about all the mothers in your life, but I would, mothers know of the
And you're
women
mothering
in your
me,
life.
you're indulging me and talking to me, giving me this platform. I think mothers come in many forms.
Yes, but I wanted you to talk a little bit about your the men in your life, your father, your brother, your boyfriends, your lovers, but also your own idea of masculinity, you know, and how was it shaped both by society and family. So talk to us a little about your silver chain, not gold chain.
I've never wear jewelry in my everyday life. I came to India, and when I had 9,800 followers, which in those days was a lot. This is years ago. But I also had a blue tick that people now pay to get. From my first year on Instagram, I was blue ticked because I gave them my ID. That's all it took. And what I realized was, as I was speaking, I was interviewing Dr. Tharoor, I interviewed Smriti Irani, I interviewed Mr. Umrao Jan's producer, Muzaffar Ali Saab. So, you know, when I do these things, these people, they were the heroes that I had brought to these kids who found me cool enough to listen to. They would send me messages that, Suvir sir, I live in whatever town they were in, near Surat, एक village में रहता हूँ. मेरे माँ बाप मुझे मारते हैं, खाना नहीं देते, कहते मेरे को बेदखल कर देंगे क्योंकि मैं डिज़ाइन स्कूल जाना चाहता हूँ. आप मेरे से बात करेंगे लाइव सेशन में? Will you talk to me in a live session? My parents will disown me because I want to be a fashion designer and they think I'm gay. I'm a cross-dresser. So I told my assistant Vardhan, I said, let's tell my friend Amir, who's sitting in the audience, create a artwork to do a live session next Friday with this young kid who's 16-and-a-half-year-old. He says, Chef, he only has 200 followers. What are you going to get out of it? I said, I don't care. I said, he's wanting to talk to me. We'll do it. So we did it. By the end of it, he said, can my sister call you now? So after the session ended, we had almost an hour-long session. We got on the phone, and the sister interviewed me and said, "Sir, हमें पता लग नहीं रहा था, हमें लग रहा था झूठ बोल रहा है कि आप आएंगे सेशन में, आप तो मिसेस ईरानी के दोस्त हैं, शशि थरूर के दोस्त हैं." तो I said, "पर आपको प्रॉब्लम क्या है कि ये डिज़ाइन बनना चाहता है, निफ्ट जाना चाह रहा है. He is now studying fashion. His parents respect him. These little acts of just giving somebody time can change lives. So in my life, these men I've had to change around from their machismo, their masculinity that's toxic, especially in India, because our Indian women somehow have given their sons, their husbands, their fathers, and their grandchildren, who are male, the agency to be very macho with other women around. जब आप किसी और की लड़की को डेट कर रहे हैं, उसका मजाक उड़ा रहे हैं, उसको देख रहे हैं और अपने आप को स्क्रैच कर रहे हैं, माएँ हंसती भी हैं हिंदुस्तान में. वो औरत भी किसी की बेटी है, किसी की बहन है. We have women who are past 50 being raped in our country. So there's seriously something wrong with our masculinity standards and how we romanticize it. So for me, luckily my father, through my mom, allowed me to be this openly gay boy, be an artist. My brother was my protector in modern school, Vasant Vihar. He was a hockey captain, sports captain, a big butch, burly boy who now runs the planet, I think, with his work at Observer Research Foundation. That boy was my protector. He knew from age 14 that I was gay. He knew when Rohit Bal first came into the household, oh God, it's a truth hai. But he even more became my bodyguard, my nurturer. When I was sick, my sister, my brother-in-law, Sameer, they all stood by me. Nobody, the men of my life have been just as Aditya Vikram Jaiswal sitting in the front row from Ranchi. Again, machismo runs in his blood. He looks like Govinda gone to Rambo. And this man became my younger brother who protects me. I've had men find their feminine side and become truly masculine by not having these overt, horrid parts of their personality come out that beat men or beat women. So men have been just as kind to me as women.
So we come to the educator part. I had not forgotten that fact at all. And
I'm an educator. I'm not even educated.
That makes you a good educator.
I teach at Harvard without having a doctoral degree that other professors need there. I was the youngest adjunct professor at NYU at age 25. I don't know. Again, life gives you gifts when you live it with an open heart. Without degrees, they gave me these gifts.
So, you know, it's amazing that you are the only chef on the nutritional advisory board at Harvard Medical School.
Brigham and Women Hospital, the teaching arm of the school.
Yes, you're not allowing me to show off my research, but...
No, I didn't want you to get into trouble.
But anyway, jokes apart, what do you teach there? And, you know, what is the idea of food? What is the idea of healthy living that you're teaching? And of all these many hats that you wear, you've said in some interview that you are most proud of being a teacher and an educator. So tell us a little about that.
So I began my life in New York. When I left retail and got into food, I created a company called Rasoi that would teach people about the Indian home kitchen. And I taught cooking classes that were taken by, there was a supermodel called Christy Hume, who had just earned the maximum $1.2 million to run the ramp for Oprah Winfrey at some fashion show. And she found me in a store where I'd put a flyer. She called me. I'm Christy Hume. I said, what, who's that? I didn't care about supermodels in those days. No, not today. But so Christy became a student. Then other starlets and Hollywood stars became my students. I taught them. Then NYU came calling. I became an adjunct professor in the Department of Nutrition and Food Studies, teaching how to make Institute of America, CIA, teach courses for, we call them health education, but more we teach nutritionists, epidemiologists, doctors, and the CEOs of the largest food industry companies how to eat and drink.
What do you teach them?
How to eat and drink, how to eat delicious food, so that what they're putting at a McDonald's into a salad is real rather than fake food. So one such class, we taught them how to use Meyer lemons and make a dressing with apple in the salad. That year, the apple farmers of America had the best yield for their business, because McDonald's started now using apple in their salad, and Meyer lemons went out of distribution. So when you can teach a CEO of a large corporation to eat real food, find it sexy and hot and tasty and craveable, you change the planet's direction. And that's the courses we teach at these summits, where we are changing the minds of the leaders of industry to think differently, to go outside the box of comfort of money being made, make money in a better way.
So, Suvir, just before we end, I wanted you to...
We're ending. I'm just getting started.
I wanted you to share the story, because so much about your life and the trajectory of it is, in a way, it speaks about how in India there is a lot of acceptance, a lot of stereotype breaking, without it being strident, without it being political. There is a accepting gene, if we can allow it to flower. And in that, what struck me was that when you said the person who really got you started on cooking was the cook in your house,
Panditji.
Panditji, and who showed you the aspects of divinity, of healing, of it being nutritional, and also social acceptance. So talk to the audience about the cook.
So Panditji, our family's Brahmin cook, taught me how to read the Ramayana, taught me how to read the Gita, which my mother and Dadi were also reading. So by Sanskrit mein, Adveshta sarva bhutana maitra karuna evacha nirmamo nirahankarah samadukha sukha kshami. What this says is Adveshta, without duality, sarva bhutana, means the entire planet. Maitra, be a friend, compassionate. Maitra karuna evacha, with compassion. Nirmamo, without aham, without ego. In good and bad times, in happiness and despair, be equipoise, show equipoise. Panditji was teaching this 12-year-old kid who had self-doubt, self-hate, and was lost to the world and himself, how to live with anchored mooring in history of religion, mythology. Panditji and my Dadi taught me that religion is mythology when it comes to books and rituals, but is religion that's the sister of science, when you look at it with plurality of thought, the wisdom of oneness, and the wholesomeness of the entire planet being one. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. So Panditji taught me this, and so at his side, I realized that the world had a capacity to be open, to be one, to be accepting, and to have room for this boy who was broken. So I learned it from Panditji in the kitchen, where I didn't feel judged. And that's where India needs to go. That's the grandness of India. When Mother India becomes that again, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, Mother India will teach the planet only as a mother can, the wisdom of accepting, of celebrating all life, and protecting all of the world's resources that we need to live and celebrate ourselves in.
That's a beautiful note to end on, Suvir, and that word you used of equipoise, in a swirling world, to have that equipoise. And for all the people who helped you arrive at that, and your own gifts and your own thirst to reach there, if you can lead us all back to our home-cooked food and the wisdom of our food traditions, that'll be a huge thing. So
I think my gift is India. I think the India of the books I've read, the India of Ganga Jamni Tehzeeb. In my school, a teacher, Mrs. Kumaran, Nalini Kumaran, was our music teacher. She taught me something that was beautiful, one of Gandhiji's favorite songs. It said, Tum Ram kaho, Virahim kahe, dono ki garaz Allah se hai. Tum deen kaho, ve dharma kahe, mancha to usi ki raah se hai. तुम इश्क कहो वे प्रेम कहे मतलब तो उसी की चाह से है क्यों लड़ता है मूर्ख बंदे ये तेरी खाम ख्याली है पेड़ की जड़ तो एक वही हर मजहब एक एक डाली है तुम राम कहो वे रहीम कहे. This is the India I grew up in, and I dream about it, I love it, and I'll protect it till I breathe my last breath and become one with India again.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Suvir. It's really been wonderful talking to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And sorry for the Patawa Tanpura that my voice is.
No, it's beautiful. Thank you very much, Suvir. We're going to take a short break. The bar is open, the food is flowing, and we'll be back for another riveting conversation with Manu Pillai, who's written a very thought-provoking and important book. So we'll see you back in 20 minutes. Thank you so much.